number 10, which is inspire your audience. This is an 8 to 10 minute speech. Here to tell one of those stories for the first time is Barbara Cude. The title of her speech, The Promise. Please help me welcome Barbara Cude.
I promise. We've all said that. And some of us have raised our pinky and double promised with a pinky swear. Now these were unbreakable and clearly put you in the realm of elite promise keeper. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. The truth is, promises are hard to keep. I've made many of them, but there was one that really pulled at my heartstrings. The year was 1972. I was 12 years old when my parents brought home their sixth child, my baby brother Donald. I sat for hours at the side of his bassinet just looking at him. It was there that I made him a promise. I promised to protect him. Protect him? From what? From the biggest secret no one knew. You see, if you were a child in my home, you were beaten and abused every day. Our parents did not have the resources to know how to manage their stress, so they took their frustrations out on us. I remember one time, I was asking for help to tie my shoe, and the next thing I knew, I was being beaten for hours. Bruised and broken in both body and spirit, I made a decision to never ask them for help again, and I lived in silence. I promised my baby brother that was not going to happen to him. When he was 6 months old, my father left our family, forcing us to move into low-income housing and sending my mother to work. Her job shift was from 3 to midnight. I never saw her. At the age of 12, I began to parent myself and raise my little brother. I didn't mind. I loved him so much. We had our nightly routine. I gave him a bath, I'd read him a story, and then he'd climb in my lap, and we even had a theme song. It's very popular back then, by the Hollies. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. We were a team. When he was 4 years old, we learned our mom was dying of lung cancer. She asked me to promise her that I would take care of him. Of course, I promised her. Until the fateful day that she died, and we all became orphans. Separated and placed in different homes, the family that took my brother decided it was in his best interest for him never to see us again. I could barely believe my ears. I wrestled with that promise I made to my mother, and I begged God to tell me, should I drop out of college and raise him myself? God answered me, but not the way I thought. He answered me with a promise. Now you say, did God just come down out of heaven, sit at your table, and start a conversation? No, he didn't. But his voice could not have been any clearer. He spoke to me out of the Bible, and he reminded me of a story in the book of Genesis. It's about a teenage boy named Joseph and his baby brother Benjamin. Now there was a time and a season in their life where they were separated, but when they were reunited, the love between them never suffered. God was asking me to let go of my brother for a season, and he left me with this promise. As Joseph saw Benjamin, so you too will see your brother again. So that's what I did. I finished college. I started my career. I married a beautiful man, and we had our first child. My brother was always in the forefront of my mind. And in my heart, I held on to the hope that God would stay true to his promise. And stay true he did. It was spectacular the way he reunited us. It was Christmas time. My sister's gift idea to me was to have my brother under the tree with a big red bow on his neck. She sent 2 of her friends to the high school nearest where he lived. And no one seemed to know him, except for one man. They assumed he was a bus driver. He was standing next to the bus. They approached him and they said, "Do you know Donald?" Well, this man told my whole brother's life about his childhood, what elementary school he went to, what high school he went to, that he graduated early, and that he was in the Marine boot camp getting ready to graduate it. The girls were astounded. And that's when my sister called me. Well, I put on my PI hat and I said, let's check this story out. And the first place I went was to that elementary school. And I looked through the yearbooks. And you know what? He was there. And you know what else? He looked just like me. Fueled, I went back to the high school. And I seemed to hit a dead end. Nobody knew him. Then I found out some information. And if I told you how I got it, I'd have to kill all of you. In the summer before he started high school, his parents changed his first name from Donald to Matthew. Armed with that knowledge, I went back to the high school, and there he was. I took it one step further, and I called Camp Pendleton. And bingo, he was there. At this point, I was sobbing on the phone to the gunny sergeant. My brother was 18 years old and facing a strong possibility of being sent to war. I knew that God was initiating all of this. He was using fanfare, and I believe that man by the bus, he was an angel. Come on! He answered the question to Donald, not Matthew. He told my whole brother's life, and my brother never rode the bus, not once. He lived right around the corner. I hopped on the first flight to Camp Pendleton. The minute I arrived, the base is closed to civilians. War had just broken out. But the gunny stuck his neck out for me. He got me on base. He took me to a barrack that had this enormous long hallway, and he set me in the very back. Now, wouldn't you know it? This was the night my brother's platoon did not clean their rifles properly. So as they marched out here in the rain for 3 extra hours, I sat in this room with 5 sergeants. There was a master sergeant, a gunny sergeant, a drill sergeant, and 2 other sergeants. I don't even remember their title. I have watched enough military shows to know, do not talk to these people. Anything I say can and will be used against my brother. So I sat there quietly. But they kept talking to me. 2 of them thought I was an ex-girlfriend seeking revenge. But they thumbed through the photo album I brought. They began to believe my story. I heard the door open, and I saw the master sergeant jump to his feet, and he said, "Private." Words were exchanged, and he gave my brother permission to proceed down the hallway. I could hear him walking, and my heart was just pounding. What happened next, I'd never expected. As he turned the corner, he dropped everything he was carrying. He ran to me. He fell on his knees, and he hugged me, sobbing. All 5 sergeants were sobbing as well. It was a moment I cannot even tell you how wonderful it was. A promise fulfilled 13 years later by a God who said, I will be a father to the fatherless. We may have fallen through every societal crack, but we were never far from his watchful eye. Matthew is 40 years old, he's married, and he has 2 children. We made it, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. Okay, everybody, please take what, Eric, would you give me